So today we're going to be checking out this Canadian Armed Forces IMP, that's an individual meal pack, chicken and sausage jambalaya. That is menu 17, and I got this in 2018 from a military surplus store on Saint Laurent Street in Montreal. There's a few military surplus stores there. I believe it was production date 2016, but as you can see, this is a military ration, not for resale, and they were clearly reselling it, so the transparency around that was a bit uncertain. I believe it was a 2016. Anyway, this ration's been through a lot. I traveled across the United States with it in my camper van. It went through all sorts of different climates. I always thought it would be a good option if I ran out of food. Nice emergency ration for those very cases. It's been through more. It's got this little blood splatter on it. Someone broke into my cabin a few months back and obviously splattered a bit of blood on there, but it survived. So yeah, I'm not really sure what caused me to want to look into it now. I guess it had always been in the back of my mind. I want to try this, but you know, we're at least 5 years past the date of production, and I've held off. Maybe it was the conflict of this break-in, the emergency there. Maybe the fact that some of my hard drives were stolen, including documentation of my friend who was born in Mississippi teaching me how to make jambalaya. I'm not sure, but I've been inspired. So today we're going to check it out, see what's edible after it's been through all this 5 years on. It'll be exciting. It's been a long time coming. Ah, there we go. Okay, so pulling, and right away. I actually held off on having coffee this morning because I knew there'd be coffee inside, but we've got this coffee crisp. I hear that there's often the issue of blooming, so this will be a nice kind of litmus test. This is essentially like what you would see in a store. This is a Canadian classic coffee crisp. I wonder if I can see if there's a best before date on this. Best before May of 2017. So yeah, we are probably looking at least a 2016 ration. So yeah, this is exactly 5 years on from the expiration date. So we'll see how that works. I'm sure if you were actually in combat away from home, that would be a really nice familiar thing to be approached with. Then, if this wasn't dessert, we've got something labeled dessert. Sliced peaches, okay, that's nice. 150 calories there. Ingredients: peaches, water, sugar, citric acid, and or ascorbic acid. I guess it's a bit of a toss-up. That looks peachy. But this is nice packaging too, I must admit. This is fun to unpack. Doesn't really sound like there's too much liquid in there, so we'll see how that goes. So this is the labeled dessert. And then we've got probably what will end up being the real dessert if it's edible behind there. Oh, pain hamburger. I have seen these before. It still feels pretty soft. But yeah, this is your nice shelf-stable hamburger bun. Pain hamburger, as they call it. So we've got 200 calories. Not a huge amount of fat. A bit of sodium there. Carbohydrates 30 grams. 1 gram of sugar. 5 grams of protein. That's fairly standard for a full bun, I'd say, of bread. Oh, there's a lot of shit in here. Oh, Nescafe, sweet and creamy. Alright, well that'll be my first coffee of the day. Original. So that already has creamer and sugar in there. So that will definitely go with my dessert section, right next to my coffee crisp. Orange sports drink, so that's your orange beverage base. Dr. Utker, Canada Limited, Mississauga, Ontario. But so it's interesting the contrast. Like, you've got something that's clearly made with the armed forces in mind. You can see the Canadian flag there and everything. And then you've got this thing that would be purchased from a store. It does provide a nice variety where there's the familiarity as well as these more institutional looking components. Alright, here's our main. Chicken and sausage jambalaya. Product of the USA. Oh, interesting. So this is probably available in US MREs as well. 460 calories. Oh, there is a little bit of trans fat in there. 2 grams of sugar, 21 grams of protein. Brown rice, cooked seasoned chicken. Doesn't look like there's too much bulging, but I'll have to inspect that. And yeah, so my friend, he's from Mississippi, showed me how to make jambalaya. I think I got his seal of approval on that too. I think I did a good enough job. Once or twice I think I put in a bit too much Zatarain's for Old Bay seasoning. But once I definitely got a seal of approval. So that'll be our main. If it's even edible once I open this up and inspect it. What do we have here? Oh, Frank's Red Hot. Nice. Again, something that just looks pretty familiar out of like a fast food chain or complimentary breakfast. Throw that on top of the jambalaya. Hot sauce is an essential addition to jambalaya. Another orange beverage base. I'll probably save that for later. Oh, we got some peanut butter. That's always good. That's probably going to go on the Pain hamburger. And then this is a compressed napkin with a Canadian flag there. Do not eat, just add water. Compressed napkin, that is a beauty. I wonder if that's the only, I think these often have napkins as well. Strawberry jam still feels pretty pliable. We're gonna definitely have a hamburger PB&J. Oh. Yeah, the peanut butter seems less pliable, so hopefully the jam will help that go down. Book of matches. Nice. Now that is one of the things, that was actually one of the major things that caused me to hold off from this. Canadian MREs don't come with flameless ration heaters. So there was a period of time where I looked around and was looking for one that I could use. I was never able to really find one. Well, I could, but then it wasn't the Canadian one. They're apparently difficult to find. They're distributed separate from the IMPs themselves. So I was always like, oh, do I boil the jambalaya? What do I do? So that delayed me a lot. This decision of whether to make sure that the jambalaya was hot, to make sure I'm getting the authentic experience with a flameless ration heater. Ultimately, I decided this is a meal ready to eat, using the American term, the MRE. I'm going to eat it as is. That's the way it's meant to be able to be consumed in that situation. We're roughing it here. The guys at the surplus store, they had just taken them camping. They actually said this was their favorite menu. I was attracted to it because I like jambalaya. So yeah, we're going without the ration heater today. I'll probably heat up some water to make the coffee later, but we'll see. Alright, what else do we have here? Oh, vanilla drink mix. Okay, that's a powdered drink, and you just fill it up right there. There's a line. So spread bottom of the pouch, add cold water, zip tight, shake vigorously. Okay, that's also pretty desserty. But maybe that will go with my Pain hamburger. Or, yeah, sports drink, maybe with the coffee crisp at the end. We'll decide that later. Tic Tacs. Nice Tic Tac mints. We've got our heavy duty napkins. I probably won't even have to hydrate this compressed one. I can save that for a real emergency situation. And that is actually pretty heavy duty. Nice brown, matches the rest of the uniform. This is my beverage bag, so I'll use my orange sports drink in there. There's something they refer to as a gusset, but I don't believe it's here. This might be before the gusset. Oh well. And then we've got our Canadian IMP spork. That's classic. That will do the trick for a lot here. Well, that looks like a nice spread. I'll just kind of sort this again. Alright, let's get this onto a tray. Nice. Okay, so starting off, we're gonna mix up a bit of this orange sports drink. In many of the MRE videos I've seen, they mix up all the drinks right away. I feel like I've got a lot to contend with here. I'm gonna kind of take it one step at a time. I really want to be able to have my coffee with my Pain hamburger, peanut butter, strawberries, and my various desserts here. So we're gonna take it one step at a time. Interesting. It's got like a almost. It actually, it's got a sort of marmalade apricot scent to it, but in a strange way, it sort of actually reminds me a little bit of the smell of panettone, like the Italian dried fruit bread that often I have at Christmas. That's very interesting. Alright, so we've got it in the beverage bag. Got a sports drink coffee line there, suggesting where it goes. I'm going to use this Canadian Club bottle just to keep things fitting. And yeah, there we go. It just took the water to reveal itself. Nice gusset, as they say. See, it stands up by itself there. Nice gusset. Okay. Take a little sip of this right out of the bag. Yeah, it's quite light. It's very pleasant. It's a little bit sweet, but not overpowering. You sense a bit of vitamins in there as well. It's really quite pleasing, actually. If you had colder water, it would definitely have a much more refreshing feeling to it. It tastes fine 5 years on. It's not like an orange juice. There's not much acidity to it. Really, really pleasant to drink. Like, I could imagine just sipping away at that over time. So next I'm going to be turning over to the chicken jambalaya. This, to me, is the main attraction. I like jambalaya. I've got a certain nostalgia for my friend teaching me how to make it. And I'm also probably the most concerned about its longevity as a dish. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about this, but we're going to check it out. This does seem a little bit excessive, the amount of cardboard they include in the packaging. I guess it's to protect things. And I suppose if I had some sort of military equipment on me, I'd have a blade or something to deal with. Okay, so chicken and sausage jambalaya. Cooking instructions. Do not use if pouch is damaged. But yeah, so it feels a little bit firm. I don't know how amazing it will be to eat at room temperature. It's not too puffy, or it's not puffy at all. It actually still seems like it's got a nice seal on it. Warnick, I've heard that is I I guess that's that company out of Cincinnati. I guess they produce a lot of different things. There are two tear notches here. There's a lower one and then this higher one. I'm just going to try to get everything, well, maybe I'll just try to mash this up as much as possible. And then get it down and get it out onto the tray. It's got that Campbell's soup aroma to it. Like if I opened up a can of canned soup, it would smell exactly like this. So I'm not getting any off-putting aroma there. Alright. Now I can see a bit of sausage there, and I'm using this spork. And then just breaking up some rice. So it looks very appetizing, but has that just very basic look to it. I'm going to try a piece of sausage here. Tastes absolutely fine. The rice is very al dente. I'd see that that would definitely be improved by heating it. That might cook the rice further. This looks like a piece of chicken. Great texture. There's no, despite my previous comparison to Campbell's, there's no painted on grill marks or fake grill marks or anything like that. Let's get a bit more of that beverage base. Now, let's get the full meal deal going here. Let's investigate these peaches. I like the notion of having more stuff out and available. Alright, this is our dessert. Sliced peaches. This also, it doesn't say Cincinnati on the outside of this one. Baxter's. It also has cooking instructions. So this is Canadian made. So I guess you're supposed to warm it, but once again I don't have that FRH. I could of course put it in boiling water, but you know the jambalaya is fine. It's a fair bit of syrup there. Peaches look to have disintegrated a little bit, but nothing all that suspect. Let's try out these peaches. There's always a really nice earthy tone to peaches. Like, of course, there is the sweetness from the syrup, but there's a dark flavor to them. They look to have maybe broken down more than I'd expect. But like from one of those peach cups or something. But these actually taste a lot more natural and less processed. Even the color, it's just this nice auburn color. It looks more wholesome than what you'd get in one of those little fruit cups with the fruit cocktail thing. I'm just gonna, maybe I'll take another sip of this. I'm just gonna tuck that over. I'll leave that there, whatever. Or bounce that over here. Trade places with those. Now for the Pain hamburger. Heard a lot about these. The fact that I don't have a knife will make this a little bit difficult, but let's see. Let's open this. None of these have really had a hiss, but they also don't seem too vacuum packed. Okay, there we go. Fresh pack, do not eat. That's a nice nice reminder, and actually, wow. I was not expecting that. Like, even from back here, after opening that, there was a bread aroma. And like, I mean, this essentially looks like a McDonald's burger bun. And we've seen how long those can last. So I'll try a little bit of this on its own. It's very, like, of these things, this is the furthest so far from what I expect from a grocery store or from a bakery. Like, despite that aroma, which I was impressed by, pleasantly surprised by, it's not particularly evocative of bread. But I would definitely say that it's going to use a little bit of help from the vanilla drink mix on that one. So we'll get that going soon as well. I'm just going to add a little bit of this Frank's Red Hot to the jambalaya because I think that's relatively essential. And so far, we got a real nice meal for ourselves. Now, this is one of the things I find particularly appealing about the notion of an MRE or IMP. It's a full banquet right here. It's very similar to what I experienced in the hospital and the way in which I enjoyed that form of eating. Everything was laid out for you, different compartments, and you could really just focus in on different parts of the meal or try a little bit of everything. But it felt as though there was a real process to eating. Right around the time that I picked up this ration, I had just come out of the hospital in Montreal, and military rations were one of the things that really got me comfortable with eating again. It was a very familiar structure, the components of the ration, to what I had experienced and enjoyed at the hospital. Like, I'm not one to add salt to my food, but I find in this food there seems like I'm sensing a lack of salt. I must say, the jambalaya doesn't display too many of those typical spices that I associate with the dish, but adding the Frank's Red Hot, I've definitely highlighted some of those things within it, or maybe simulated it rather. As I progress through it, the jambalaya certainly is a little bit thirst-provoking. And I feel as though I'm going to have a similar experience upon trying out this peanut butter. I guess it's about time to break out the vanilla drink mix. Directions. Spread bottom of pouch and add cold water to the line. Zip tight, shake vigorously. Ooh. Yeah, that certainly smells like vanilla. It smells like some sort of crushed up cereal or something. Once again, adding the water from this trusty Canadian Club bottle. Got lucky for these Ziplocs. This looks like a fairly thick, runny yogurt. Actually, it looks like a lot of other stuff too, but I won't describe that. It's definitely got a very sweet, rich, custard-like aroma. Ooh, that tastes very, very synthetic. Yeah, almost as if someone took like the sign from an ice cream shop, the like plastic garish sign of, I'm imagining like soft serve, melted that down, and then you were drinking that. I think it will pair well with peanut butter though, I can say that. So this is from Stone Mountain, Georgia, this peanut butter. Let's taste a little bit of this peanut butter on its own. Well, not as sweet as Kraft. It definitely has that slight bitterness that a more natural, less sweetened peanut butter has. I use the bag itself to spread it around a bit. There you go. Improvising in the field. Yeah, kind of tastes like a nice roasted peanut. Oh, this bread is just so crumbly though. The density of the bread and the thickness of the peanut butter, like, the peanut butter is not doing a whole bunch. I gotta take a drink. The peanut butter is not doing a whole bunch to actually make the bread more palatable, less dry, and more edible. So that's a little bit ironic. That being said, the peanut butter itself is actually quite impressive. It definitely is sweetened, but it's not overly sweet. This sports drink, on the other hand, is very thirst quenching. It's super pleasant, super light. Like, I don't necessarily always like just drinking water with savory food. It's not just like drinking water. It's enjoyable to drink. I look forward to a drink of it. And yet it definitely cuts through some of these flavors. Alright, we'll try out a bit of the strawberry jam. Perhaps it will make that bread more palatable. Rather dark for strawberry jam. But once again, comparing it to like civilian versions of the same product, for example, like a little packaged jam you might get in a diner, is not bad. It has more of a, like, there's a really nice rich color to that. Let's see. Like, I guess I'm supposed to be a badass and have a knife on me. No, that definitely does a better job moistening that bread. That is a much more pleasing topping than the peanut butter, which I find essentially just made the bread actually more difficult to eat. With the exception of the bread, I think everything here has rivaled the quality and flavor of civilian canned goods, civilian packaged goods, shelf-stable goods. Overall, I've been pretty impressed. The peaches are certainly a welcome addition too. Like, I feel as though there's a lot of different sources of sugar and sweetness. The peaches were the ones labeled dessert. And for me, it truly is the most satisfying of the desserts thus far. I'll be interested to try that coffee crisp. I feel like, if anything, of course, I'm sitting here in a civilian situation eating this, but if anything, I feel like I would need more in terms of the entree, the savory aspect, and then something easy to eat like the peaches that is not just this kind of further carbohydrate, and is also very easy to digest, would be helpful. The strawberry jam, once again, really helps make this bread more palatable, less dry. The nature of a lot of these foods makes me understand why so many beverages are provided. And speaking of which, as we move on to the dessert section of the meal, with the coffee crisp in mind, as well as this sweet strawberry jam and peaches, I better get the coffee going. Alright, so this is the sweet and creamy Nestle Original. So it has milk as well as sugar, I assume, because it's sweet and creamy. Let's see if there's a tear. Oh, there's some sort of tear thing. Let's see this. Yeah, so you got some fine crystals there. Oh, it's actually a good amount in there. Doesn't have much of a coffee aroma, the crystals themselves. Sort of actually smells like a coffee crisp. Considering it's got the cream and sugar in there, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, it definitely needs a good stir. It's got that coffee machine, coffee aroma to it. Like something where a coffee machine that just makes a latte or a mocha or something just out of what's in there, and probably has all sorts of different flavors. It's got a nice mouthfeel. It's still tasting good. I could see that lifting a lot of people up. It definitely has the appeal of coffee. It's got a really nice richness to it. This would be a very, very comforting end to a meal. But with that, let's taste another form of coffee. So here's our coffee crisp. Oh yeah. So there's a fair bit of blooming there. Yeah, it's got a smell that is a tad off, and it's, yeah. That, for the hell of it, I'll take a bite. It doesn't taste horrible. Like, almost starts to taste a little bit like a, what are those called? Rockets. Like, more of just a candy. That's strange. So yeah, that's what, at 5, like, in some ways I'm surprised. This is the most visibly aged thing in the entire meal. Again, it's a civilian product, not designed specifically for longevity and these purposes, but that is the most warped thing in this entire pack. I gotta wash that down a bit. So that will be the ultimate dessert there. That is very enjoyable. But there you have it. So we've got the jambalaya, which ultimately, I feel as though a lot of the menu names are for the purpose of giving someone a context of what they are supposed to imagine the dish to be. It's the best possible scenario for what chicken, rice, and these sausages are, with a bit of seasoning. There's nothing that, beyond the fact that it's a similar format to jambalaya, the actual flavors I don't think are all that indicative or traditional of jambalaya. Yet, having it defined as such brings me that comfort. It brings me back. It has nostalgic memories for me. That is where it truly becomes jambalaya and becomes something specific and something enjoyable. But if we're to be really rational about it, it's just the lump sum of ingredients. And that's what so much of this is. Like, even the dessert label on the side of the peaches, that gives a context for it. It, in many ways, is a much more enjoyable piece than the coffee crisp. I still have the other bag of that orange beverage base. It's stood up very well. I can ration that for later. This, I think, needs to be changed. They should realize that this is, if anything, this would be a kick in the teeth if what you really wanted was coffee crisp. But coffee crisp is a poor imitation, even of this poor imitation. do feel somewhat dirty. I think our bodies say something against eating 5-year-old food for a reason. And a Tic Tac or two is always a way to bring back your dignity.